curve with the camera, so.
Sorry, just pretend it's not here.
Just for anybody who does not know me, I'm Dr. Thomas Raetzsch. And I'll say a little disclaimer first, that if I mention anything about patients, it's not about any real patients. And I'm not giving any medical advice tonight. You can't hear me? Do I need to talk into here? Yeah. Good, okay. All right, very good. Did you hear at all what I said just a second ago? Or do I need to repeat that?
Repeat.
Okay. No medical advice for me tonight and no real patients. Okay. So I was born in Seguin. Went to kindergarten at Emmanuel's Lutheran. Elementary school at Weiner, Mary B. Junior high at Seguin. Graduated from Seguin High School. Went across town to TLC. Graduated from TLC, and then I did finally leave town, go to medical school. I graduated from medical school in 1983 from Texas Tech. Then I went to Austin, where I did my family practice residency program. Then we moved back to Seguin, and that's kind of the basis of my education. Okay. And everything I kind of mentioned tonight, I think I'm mentioning because it kind of has something to do with my story about getting the whole food plant-based. So my father, doctor in Seguin, had his first heart attack at age 38. I remember the ambulance coming to the house, going down the hall. I'm like 10 or 12 years old. They took him to the next hospital. They kept him a month. It was a very scary time. Back then, there was no real treatment for heart problems. So they kept him there about a month. He came home. He did well for a couple years, had another heart attack. But he had heart problems most of his life, but he continued to practice, and he lived until he was 79, and when he passed away. So he had a long life. Both my grandfathers were doctors. My father's father died, who practiced in Seguin, died at age 63 of heart problems. My mother's father, who was a doctor, died at age 63 of heart problems and cerebral aneurysm. And I'm 63. So, needless to say, I am a little nervous. That's one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing. I think it's important to let you know a little bit about me. I grew up hunting and fishing, raising cattle, and I guess my hobby was eating cattle. I like to eat them too much. But I mention that for one specific reason, that my journey to whole food plant-based is what you would not expect me to do, and not what I was brought up doing, and not what my first inclination was. I wanted so much for a healthy diet to be a high animal fat, but for me, going to whole food plant-based, I wouldn't do that if I did not think it was absolutely the best diet. And I am 100% whole food plant-based committed. My problems with weight, started in grade school. 200 pounds by the 7th grade. In high school, I decided, not for health, but I think I wanted to start dating and whatnot, so I decided to lose weight. Got down to 160 pounds. I went on what I call the spinach diet. I ate cereal for breakfast, meat and spinach for lunch, and meat and spinach for supper, and lost weight. There's lots of ways to lose weight, but they're not always healthy. I maintained that weight for quite a while with some ups and downs. I was mainly eating what you would consider a low carbohydrate diet, eating high animal fats, protein, high meat. I moved back to Seguin and gained weight over the next 18 years. So we can show the next slide. Oh, did my wife put that in? She sent me that on the email with the title Fat Picture. So you can see that, and it's a little, I'm really a lot fatter than that looks in that picture. It's a little deceptive, but anyway, that was at a low point, I think. We can move on to the next slide. This is a copy in 2000 of my cholesterol. You can see, and it's maybe a little hard to see, my cholesterol was 298. My blood sugar was 142. And you down in the next slide, which is a little smaller, the bad cholesterol is LDL cholesterol, if you know what that is. It's 239. Yeah. So, anyway, I was working hard, practicing, gaining weight, not taking care of myself. Those are the numbers. Next slide, please. My heart problems started November 2004. I can remember it like yesterday. I was had been on an Atkins type diet, went through Thanksgiving, was getting ready to go hunting down in South Texas, and woke up that morning before I left and developed a little tightness in my chest. I wanted it so bad not to be my heart. I took some Tums, took some Maalox. It went away, but it came back. And I debated whether or not to go. And luckily, I made a decision, drove to the emergency room. Next thing that happened, I was in the hospital in San Antonio, 99% blocked LAD. And the Widowmaker is what they call that. And did fine. Came home, was placed on Lipitor, developed severe pain in my muscles, stopped it, took it again, pain came back, so I put it to the side. Okay. I was eating basically what I was told to eat, a diet, low dairy fat, lean meat, some vegetables, that type of thing. Seemed to do okay for a couple years. Next slide. Then Christmas Eve 2006, 2 years later, went through Thanksgiving, went through Christmas. Christmas Eve, Beth was wrapping some gifts, and the tightness came back. If you've ever had that tightness, you'll never forget it. So this time I knew what it was, and we just drove straight to the heart hospital in San Antonio. They did an emergency heart cath, and I was groggy, but the doctor came and said, "I'm sorry, 4 vessels are blocked, and you need emergency heart surgery." So, next slide. I'm gonna digress for 1 second. This is a picture of, on the left, that's the LAD artery, left anterior descending coronary artery. I don't know if you can see, that's a 95% blockage. After a stent, that's opened up now at 100%. If the LAD blocks to 100%, it's almost always fatal. Okay. So, next slide. I was going to say that's my chest, but it's not. But this is what they did to me the next day on Christmas. This was my Christmas gift. They took a saw, cut me open, stopped my heart, have you on a heart lung machine, giving you oxygen, but basically they are taking either veins from your leg or a mammary artery, hooking it, bypassing the blockages. Okay. So, anyway, that's what that is. Next slide. Okay. So that Christmas, 2006, was my Christmas gift. And you know, I needed the surgery. I mean, surgery at that time with my blockages saved my life. It wasn't like an elective type thing where, you know, I was having heart damage. This was a case where I think, no question, the surgery was needed. Anyway, back home on Lipitor, more muscle pain. I remember when I got home, we went to HEB. This time I thought I was being smart. I went to the deli section and I got the American Heart Association blessed ham and turkey and chicken, and got back eating that type of a diet again and thought I was doing the right thing. Luckily, back to the Lipitor, that's a statin drug if you don't know. It's to lower your cholesterol. And before the bypass and after the stent, the first time I had problems, and I had problems again, but luckily they came out with another statin, so I did get on it, and I took Crestor at the time. Next slide. I think we can, yeah. Let's see, back it up. Okay, so after the bypass is when I think it was my sister-in-law who introduced me to a book on, basically it was called Eat to Live. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that book. But anyway, I started reading it and I didn't put it down. I read the whole thing, and it was a new way of eating for me. It was basically whole food, plant-based. I got on that diet and I felt great. And I did well for a couple years. 2009 was a sad year. My son passed away. He drowned. And it was tragic. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we all go through things. And that's why it's important for me to say that. Anyway, I slid. I quit eating whole food, plant-based. I quit exercising. I gained weight and had problems. Anyway, that went on for a few years, and then in 2015, I wrote on here, I'm back, because that's what I felt like. You know, I felt like if I didn't change something, I wasn't going to make it. So anyway, at that time, I got my old Eat to Live book out. I started reading, researching. I just could not stop. I got introduced to Caldwell Esselstyn, his Preventing and Reversing Heart Disease, which I would highly recommend to anybody. Read the China study, T. Colin Campbell, read as many scientific journals, literature as I can, and it's hard for a doctor to ferret out the right type of diet. I can only imagine how hard it is for just the layperson. But anyway, I got back on the whole food plant-based and haven't stopped. Lost weight within a week or two, felt 100% better, and kept going. Next slide. My cholesterol now totals about 130. My LDL is about 60. I'm doing good with it. My inflammatory markers are all down. I wonder if in 2000, if I would have heard about whole food plant-based, if I could have avoided these 15 years, 19 years. Anyway, that's a question mark. I don't know. I may not have listened to it. You know, that's one of the hard things. And that's why anybody in here that's in here that hasn't had their chest cut open is smarter than I am, because you're doing this before, and I could not be more pleased that you're here doing this. Anyway, my story is not a sad story, it's a journey with a happy ending. So, that's the end of my story. Okay, now, next slide. Oh, well, no, you can, my grandson, Asher, and he's one of the reasons why I'm trying to do this. So, it's so important for everybody. Okay, now basics of a whole food plant-based diet. So I don't know really everybody here as far as it'll be a repeat to some, but are there people here who don't know much about whole food plant-based eating? Okay, Pat, what about you? A little bit, okay, all right. So I'm going to just go over some basics because I think it's important. We all have to start somewhere, okay? And in a way, really, it's the easiest thing in the world. I could say no animal, and that includes no dairy, no eggs. When I tell my patients, I say, well, you can't eat meat. And they say, Doc, I don't eat meat. I eat lots of chicken. And it's a common thing that for some reason we think chicken isn't a meat, but but by the way, a fact, most of the cholesterol in the American diet today comes from chicken. Secondary, third is red meat. Avoid processed foods. That's something that people sometimes don't really understand, but you try to think of, you'd want to eat something that's closest to the way it was made, grown, rather than processed with the seed, the hull taken off and crushed up and whatnot. So you want to eat, it's hard to eat no processed food, but you want to eat less processed food. No oil. Now, why no oil? Okay. So you might think, well, that's a plant. It's not really processed, but really it is. They have to take thousands of olives and crush them down and process them to get just a little bit of olive oil. So that and the real reason besides that is that, especially for people with heart problems, it's off limits totally. Okay. No sugar, and that could be debated by some people. Even people in the whole food plant-based realm argue. So, there's no, people go into this type of diet for different reasons. Everybody here, they don't, you may not have heart disease. You may be concerned about getting prostate cancer. You know, a whole food plant-based diet is very protective of prostate cancer. There's different reasons people do this. We might be worried about our memory. It's you know, really good for the memory. Eat vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes / beans, nuts and seeds if no heart disease, no nuts if heart disease. Next slide, please. The best diet for me, a person with heart disease, is absolutely whole food, plant-based, no oil, no nuts. I would encourage you to try to follow the science. Don't be, I don't know if I have it on this slide, but people have agendas, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But what about fasting? I would encourage you not to go on a fasting type diet, especially on your own. If you have an inkling to look into that, I would encourage you to read about Walter Longo. And he doesn't have a real fast. He calls it a fasting mimicking diet, and it is whole food, plant-based. But that's a specific case. Nobody should do that on their own without the doctors monitoring it. Not everybody's going to do a whole food plant-based. So, I talk to people about other diets. And I think this is an important point. Dr. Campbell, he wrote the China study, and he's a PhD. He's worked in nutrition for 40 or 50 years, I don't know. And I really like reading his stuff and listening to him, and it makes sense. When you go to the doctor with high blood pressure, the doctor gives you a high blood pressure pill, but, we don't look at the whole body, and how is the blood pressure medicine affecting other things, and how is the high blood pressure affecting things, and the whole body kind of meshes together. So we really need to kind of have a holistic approach. Now, I'm not saying don't get off your blood pressure medicine. Do not do that. Okay. Next slide. I just have this up here to show that 6 in 10 people in America have a chronic disease, and a vast majority of the dollars spent in medicine go to treat chronic disease, and so much of that could be improved, if not prevented, with a whole food plant-based diet. Next slide. Health benefits of eating whole food plant-based, in my opinion: lowers blood pressure, lowers sugar for diabetics, lose weight, lowers cholesterol, less inflammation, improves the immune system, helps prevent, treat, and reverse many chronic diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and obesity. Next slide. Challenges. Currently, the way the medical system is set up, we are paid to treat problems, not prevent problems. Okay, that's a problem. No pun intended. I think there are 3 factors into why things are the way they are, and why we're having a hard time getting, it would seem like it would make sense if I told you if you ate whole food plant-based, this would happen or this would happen, that everybody would do it, but it's not the case. Anyway, the 3, I think, challenges are the big pharmaceutical companies. They fund the research, And so they kind of direct, and they're looking for medicine. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a doctor. I prescribe medicine. The medicine is life-saving. So many things with new cancers and stuff. I mean, but it's all directed at usually medication. There's not going to be any funding for plant studies because there's no money in it, and so that's what makes it difficult to get the information. Then doctors are another problem. We don't get educated in nutrition. I learned biochemistry, I learned the Krebs cycle, I learned detailed stuff and stayed up night after night memorizing things that have nothing to do with health. They have to do with biochemistry, and they're not helpful. We don't learn about nutrition. And then the last one is patience. We live in a pill society. A patient with, many patients, I'm not speaking about any patient in particular, but it's easier to take a pill than it is to change your lifestyle and your diet. So those are the three big factors I see. And then everyone has an agenda. I have written up there, and these people fund a lot of the studies. The dairy lobby, the egg lobby, the animal groups. And then you have to look at the other side of it. Animal rights groups, people make environmentalists, and I'm not going on any side of this political thing here, but an animal rights group person might want you to eat whole food plant-based. They don't care anything about your health. They may say something because they don't want you to eat a cow or kill a chicken. It just, as much as a person that is raising cows might tell you that they want you to eat it. So you have to have open eyes, keep an open mind, and try to read and study, and don't take everything your doctor tells you as 100%, and don't take everything you read as 100%. Next slide. Couple things I think to mention if you would decide to go whole food plant-based. One, if you have any medical conditions, discuss it with your doctor. I think that's extremely important. Okay. When I started doing it, I got off 2 blood pressure pills. My blood pressure got low. I got lightheaded. I said, "What's wrong?" So you need to, if I would have been a doctor, I probably wouldn't have picked up on it. So we need to be monitored. You don't have, if you don't have any health problems, I don't know, you need to discuss it with anybody. Variety, try to get your I won't say nuts, try to get your fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains, your legumes and beans. Try to get a variety of things. Don't just eat broccoli or something, or brown rice all day. You need a variety of foods. I feel, I encourage you to be conservative as far as B12 is the nutrient that is probably the most difficult to get on a whole food plant-based diet. So I recommend you take B12 supplement. If you're over 50 or 60, I recommend it as sublingual B12. So you bypass the stomach for absorption. The question comes up about DHA. That's an omega-3 fatty acid. And 20 to 30% of the brain is made up of DHA. And you don't get DHA in a whole food plant-based diet. Now, you get EPA, which is another omega-3, and a lot of people can convert EPA into DHA, but you have no way to know that. I don't know that. And, you know, if you look at baby formula, it's fortified with DHA. Prenatal vitamins are fortified with DHA. Why? Because they're worried about the baby's brain. Well, I think my brain is pretty important too, and I don't think DHA will hurt me, so I take DHA. I get a algae-based DHA, either from GNC or HEB. And you could do a regular fish oil that has EPA and DHA in it, but I just decided I want to go the algae-based. And if you know, nobody's perfect. I always say that, you know, if we were perfect, there probably wouldn't be Jesus, and nobody would come see me. So if we fall down, get back up, you know, try to do what I did and get back up and keep moving. I think that's it. Good. Yeah, I think that's it. So you know, feel free to correct me on any, oh wait, no, we may have some, do we have any more? No, I think that's it. That's it. So feel free to ask me any questions if you have any. Yeah.
How difficult is it for someone with diabetes to go whole food plant-based, and
Sure. That's a really good question. Okay. And part of it depends on the type of diabetes you have, if it's type 1 or 2. It is kind of almost opposite of what most people have been taught and most people have learned. You know, they learn stay away from the carbohydrates. And a typical whole food plant-based diet may be 60 to 70% carbohydrate, 20% fat, 10% protein. But it's good carbohydrates, and for most people, and again, it depends on the medicine one's on. So it needs to be, that's a specific case that needs to be monitored very closely by the doctor. I tell my patients to, depending on the medicine, some I tell them to stop right away, some I cut the insulin in half, it just depends. And you monitor it closely. There are certain medicines you should not take when you go on a whole food plant-based. So it can be done, and it's really been shown to be beneficial in a lot of cases. Yes.
Back to this DHA.
Yes.
Is that how it's advertised on the?
Not usually. It might be, and you can certainly, you can get some, I believe mine says algae-based omega-3. Yeah. And then I look at the ingredients, and it has a certain amount of DHA, a certain amount of EPA, and I try myself to get 250 milligrams of the DHA to 300.
Do you think this is just as necessary as the, what's the other one?
B12. B12, 100% absolutely necessary, unless you are eating dirt and stuff out of the garden. Things like that, but no, most of us that eat, now, certain, you can get B12 fortified almond milk and some other things, you know. I just prefer to take mine in a pill form that I know I get, sublingual I know I absorb. And B12 is extremely important to take.
So you can't get too much B12.
It's a water soluble vitamin. There's and so you can generally think that if you get an excess, you will pee it out. But I would, you know, I take 500 micrograms a day. Now, some people I'd see take 1,000 or 5,000. I don't feel that's necessary. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
can you get that over the counter?
The which one?
The B12?
Yeah, over the counter. Mhm.
Yeah, I used to use the injectable.
Yeah.
I even gave it to myself once a week,
Yeah,
and then it wasn't available anymore.
right. Yeah, I mean, I have bottles and bottles of B12 at my office, and I take the pill. I mean, I could take a shot, but I'd rather just take a pill. Yeah. But
Every day.
I do the 500 micrograms a day. Michael Greger, who talks about B12 a lot, I think he takes 2,500 once a week, but I take 500 once a day. Yes, ma'am.
But there's a blood test that.
Yeah, you can check your B12.
At one point, I had too much, and my
Yeah.
doctor, said, okay, first of all, she changed me to a different brand of pill that had a different chemical makeup.
Yeah.
And then now I take it like 5 days, not 7. I skip a day here and there, and that's
That's
now
good.
I'm back to
Yeah.
my normal drug levels.
Yes.
One of the questions, how do you feel about probiotics?
Probiotics are good. So let's talk beans. Okay. So beans are a starchy vegetable. Okay. But they don't make your blood sugar go up that much. And the reason that is that a lot of the starch you do not digest in the stomach and the small intestine. And that starch reaches your large intestine where all those bacteria attack it, okay? Chemical reaction, they produce methane gas, and there comes the gas, okay? So a person with a lot of gas is a person with a healthy gut, you know? But you're feeding your probiotics and your own probiotics, you know? I personally right now don't take a probiotic because I feel like I'm eating healthy and whatnot. And now if I take an antibiotic, I'll take a probiotic. Yeah, and yeah. There's some speculation, and I don't think this is proven, but there's some speculation that people that are chronically on a PPI may be B12 deficient. They should be taking the sublingual also. Okay.
Also, with our busy schedules, I don't know if everybody else does this, but I tend to space my pills out in the morning. So I'm pumping all kinds of nutritional, B12, everything, C, everything in my body.
Yeah.
Like every 15 minutes, something different.
Yeah, I don't know if you, I said be wary of excessive vitamins, okay? I would encourage you to try to get your nutrients. The reason I said the B12 and the DHA, why did I just say those? Because those are things that are hard to get on a whole food plant-based diet. Your vitamin C and whatnot that you get in a whole food plant-based diet is 1,000 times better than a vitamin C tablet made chemically. And so we don't know what excess vitamins make things grow. And, for us people that are a little older, some things that they may make grow, we don't want to grow, And so we don't know what side effects that might have. And when they came out with vitamins in the 30s and the 40s, they thought that would be the answer to everything. It's not the answer. They're for some people, they're good. So I'm starting to tell people if they want to take a multivitamin, take it 3 times a week because I don't really know I don't think you need it every day.
That's my downfall, is because I like to take separate pills for each, like vitamin B12.
Yeah, you need to get that. I would encourage you to work on getting that. That's the whole basis of this diet. If you're eating a whole food plant-based diet, you're eating fruit every day. You're getting. Yeah.
I think somebody else is.
Well, I understand. Yeah. So yeah, if you're not eating healthy, then take vitamins. Yeah.
How often do you take the DHA, your algae-based?
The what now?
To make up your algae-based?
I take it every day.
It's 250 to 300 milligrams every day?
Yep. Okay.
For DHA.
And there are people that would, like, I don't know for sure, if Dr. Campbell feels like you need that, Dr. Esselstyn, I think, is a question mark, or, some people, but, I don't think that's gonna hurt me. I'm not eating fish, and I would rather err on my brain, and take a little allergy-based DHA. So, yeah, I think be cautious, don't do anything crazy. Yeah. Any other? And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me anytime.
I was busy eating.
Sure.
What do you see?
Can you use the mic?
Okay, I want to ask Dr. Raetzsch about what he thinks about the future of nutrition and medicine. Like he talked about how he didn't get the training for nutrition when he was going to medical school, and most of our doctors here locally did not. So, he's done this on his own. But what do you see as far as the future? Do you think in medical schools now, I know Dr. Bernard is working on that, and several of them, Dr. McDougall, I think, is traveling around the medical schools now, but I see a bright future, but as a doctor's point of view, how long do you think it's going to take?
So that's a tough answer. I think if you look at change, okay, it's not going to come from the doctors, okay, and that may not be the answer you want to hear, but I think if you look at smoking, too many doctors like to eat meat, and they're lucky and haven't had their heart cut open, so they're not gonna go there. For doctors liked smoking, and they would advertise cigarettes. They weren't the ones that changed that.
Yeah.
So I think there is a bright future, but it's going to come from y'all.
Yeah.
Not from the doctors. They are working on it, but it's just not going to come from the doctors.
Yeah, I think it's up to us to show our doctors, what the difference is.
Now keep that quiet.
Okay, don't say Dr. Raetzsch said you can't come from us.
It's on the camera.
It's going online, so anyway, but.
Oh, no.
They'll have to watch it all the way to the end, though. It'll.
Yeah, okay, no, but I think it's true. I think it's true. I think it's up to all of us out here to make the changes. And so I hope y'all have learned a lot tonight, and you're ready to go out and get this message out there and change your doctor. I mean, doctor told me I would be on blood pressure medicine the rest of my life. Well, he was wrong. and other things, like I know that I was just probably months away from diabetes. I mean, if you look at the picture of me over there, a lot of y'all just met me tonight. This is 85 pounds thinner. I'm healthy and strong. I do this because I care. I care about each and every one of you out here tonight. Y'all have seen it. The ones that have been here before have seen me cry many times. Because I really care. That's why I do this. That's why Dennis and I do this every month. Dennis had his chest cut open too. He did the heart bypass. This is not a fun thing. And today on Facebook I noticed that Texas, and I wanted to ask you about this too. I saw Texas has decided that all student athletes must participate in heart testing before they can participate on the field or in their chosen athletic endeavors. I am all for it because heart disease starts in childhood, especially with the standard American diet that we eat now. I mean, and kids today may not outlive their parents. If we don't do something about the American diet and how unhealthy kids are. Kids are growing up unhealthy. We need to do something about it. So, what do you think about that testing? Don't you think that's a good idea? Because I think the problems will be found.
I don't know what kind of testing you're talking about.
I don't know, I didn't read the whole article, but it was in the Texas legislature. You'll probably hear about it if it really was passed.
Usually in these athletes, these young children, you hear about dying suddenly out, practicing. It's not an artery that's blocked, it's usually a valve, it's other issues, valvular or rhythm disturbance type problem. So, it certainly can be screened for, but yes, that's a little different kind of a situation.
Oh, okay.
It may not be coming from the diet itself, but, yeah, I mean, they've taken, we're way too sedentary.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, when you hear about kids having high cholesterol and diabetes and, at younger and younger ages, I mean, that's sad.
I think, let's see, is anybody here younger than like 12? Oh, okay, we've got one person in here that doesn't have heart disease. They did studies on Korean War service guys that died, they were shot, healthy guys over there in the Army, and they did autopsies on them, and almost 100% of them already had heart disease at the age of 20. So, it starts young, and, now, with the whole food plant-based diet, it's not a negative thing. You can reverse that if you catch it before it catches you. So that's important.
I think you and Dennis both are proof of that. They both have cured themselves of heart disease. So each and every one of us out here, all of us
You
that
too?
are over 12.
Oh.
I went to the cardiologist and he said, well, your cholesterol's high, you take medication. I said, no. He said, you have high blood pressure? And I said, no. I came over here a year and a half. No more blood pressure, no more cholesterol. And he wouldn't, I told him, doctor, you should do the same thing. I'm not going to.
Well, yeah, when I hit Seguin in '86, I was ready to cure the world with the pills and stuff, I mean, we were going to fix the blood pressure, if you are a extremely, I don't want to say unusual, but, you're not the norm, okay? Most people, say, give me the medicine, okay, and quit talking to me about the diet, so anyway, yes.
Vicky's been my friend for a number of years, and she kept bugging me, and anyway. But to cut to the chase, I asked about diabetes. That wasn't for me. There's friends who are diabetic who says, "Oh no, I can't possibly eat potatoes. I can't possibly eat that way, etc." And I need information to give to them. But I don't have any of the heart or those kind of problems. I had inflammation. I had pain, and so that's what has changed my life. And I am no longer in the pain that I was in because of this kind of diet.
Absolutely.
That's my test. You have a heart testimony, I have an inflammation testimony.
And I didn't mention my inflammation, but I totally am with you on that. And my back, and I add things to my whole food plant-based, like I add turmeric to all the vegetables I cook, and other things. So yeah. Is that one video? Do you want to show that?
Yeah, let's.
Do you want to do that? It's just
Yeah,
about
let's.
a minute.
Okay, we're gonna show you a video by Dr. Pam Popper. It's only a few minutes long.
Unfortunately, don't view it as an all or nothing diet or as the exclusive club, because any movement towards plant-based eating has to be a good thing. I recently heard a great talk by Dr. Pam Popper on this very issue. In this audio clip, Dr. Popper and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn are giving their opinions on whether or not eating some animal products on a mostly plant-based diet is okay. Before we hear that clip, if you're suffering from a chronic disease such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, lupus, etc., it's my opinion that you have to be on a 100% whole food plant-based diet in order to heal. So now let's hear that clip. The link to the original video is in the description below.
I think that one thing we know is that the effect is dose dependent, and here's my concern about all of this. There really isn't an indigenous vegan population on the planet. We all cite statistics from places like Okinawa and Papua New Guinea, and where it's a plant-based diet, it's a starchy plant-based diet, and very tiny amount of calories from animal protein. And so I think we have to acknowledge that very small amounts of animal food in the diet appear to be tolerable by humans. And one of the ways I think that we can get more people to do this is not being so caught up with the V word. Now, having said that, the patients who you deal with, I've seen your program at Cleveland Clinic, and I don't think there's any level of restriction that you can give these people that would be inappropriate because of how sick they are. I recommend your diet to people who are in that condition. But I think we run the risk of taking people who are younger and not sick and making them think that this is a diet for people who are very sick because it is so restrictive. So that's why we don't take animal foods entirely off the table for a significant number of our people, but we're very clear that it has got to be a tiny little bit of animal food. I mean, a woman in Ethiopia fixing dinner tonight takes 8 ounces of goat and slices it up and feeds 9 people. And that's simply not dangerous as far as we know. But it has to be prescriptive. In other words, it's 2 or 3 times a week, it's organic, it's wild caught. Everybody wants to get carried away with the quality of the animal food. I think there's some issues with the quality of the animal food. I think we should pay attention to it. But I think that the quality of the animal food discussion leads people to think that if it's better animal food, then you can have a lot of it. And that's simply not true. And then the other discussion ends up being, well, if it's fish and chicken, is that better than beef and pork? Not if you're eating the same amount of it. It's only when whatever it is that you're eating, with the exception of dairy, in my opinion, that you ratchet it down to a teeny, teeny part of your diet, assuming you're in relatively good health, that you're going to get any therapeutic effect. We have to stop having a discussion about pasture-fed beef and all that. That leads people to thinking that there's some magical way they're somehow going to be able to hang on to all this animal food in their diet. I think the evidence is quite clear that they can.
You have to answer what everybody is a little bit, what is moderate? Ask them what moderate would be.
Well, we don't use that term. I'm talking about a little bit, but our language about it is very specific. It's 2 or 3 times a week.
So that's 156 times out of the year.
Right. That's exactly.
But you're injuring your endothelial cells.
Well, here's the thing. Sometimes I have a glass of wine that probably injures my brain cells. And this afternoon I had a cup of coffee. And I have acrylic nails, and that's probably not good. And we have no idea what color my hair is. If what we're suggesting to people is that you should not ever do anything that causes any injury to any part of your body at any time. I would have got on the plane this morning, I would have driven to the airport, I take off the nails, we'd see whatever color my hair is. I'm sure the makeup is toxic, and I had birthday cake at the last party I went to, and I'm sure that was not good for me. If somebody has coronary artery disease, all on board. No level of restriction that's too much, but I think we have to be careful about this message, because if we can't sell it to people, we're done. And if we don't reach anybody, if what we're reaching is a tiny part of the population, we get excited about things. We get excited about restaurants serving plant-based fare. We get excited every time a celebrity has a vegan meal. But we have got to start getting excited because we see the needle moving in terms of numbers of people in the population. We are converting to thinking that taking care of themselves with diet and lifestyle is better than taking drugs. And it's a slow slog right now. We've got to gather steam. And one of the ways we've got to do it, in my opinion, is we've got to present something that people are willing to buy. The science of change is as rich as the science of plant-based nutrition or nutrition in general. And the 2 reasons why people make a change, number 1, I think it will benefit me. Number 2, I can see myself doing it. I can show you study after study after study after study. Here's where we're losing them. I can see myself doing it. We have to be careful about that. So that's one of the reasons why we sort of stay away from the V word. I'm vegan, I love it, I'm proud of it, I tell everybody, I don't hide that, but having said that, I'm not sure that that is the message that's going to change the world.
You know how I feel, 100% is best. Dr. Raetzsch feels 100% is best, but if you're trying to convince somebody that's new to this I think Dr. Popper was saying, okay, you know, half an ounce of meat a couple times a week is not gonna hurt you. But 100% is best. And this is a message we're trying to get to a large number of people, because we're trying to not only save people's lives, we're trying to save this very planet. And once you learn more about this, you realize that the environmental impact of animal agriculture is destroying our world. The other thing is that with the amount of people with the chronic illnesses they have, heart disease, diabetes, and the list goes on and on, is not sustainable. We cannot continue down the path we're going financially for the government, for people to be able to survive. It's not going to work. The number of people being diagnosed with diabetes grows each and every day, and sadly, a lot of them are our children. And that's a sad fact. When I was growing up, I didn't know kids with diabetes. I didn't know very many adults with type 2 diabetes. Now, it's rampant. I mean, it's very scary. And this type 2 diabetes is reversible. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen with several of the people that come to our meetings. I see it happen every day. It can be done. That being said, I want to draw for our drawing, and also I want to talk a little bit about next month. Next month, I'm very excited. Adam Sudd is going to be here. He's coming from Austin. His story is amazing. Adam is a national speaker. He speaks all over the country. He works now with a company called Mastering Diabetes, and if you know of anybody with diabetes, they need to connect with that website. But he works with them now. But his story is very impactful. I'm going to bring Kleenex and set it on the tables because you will need it. Dennis and I saw him tell his story last summer at Plant Stock, and we sat in the front row, right down the very front, and bawled like babies. His story is amazing. He's an outstanding young man, and he happens to live in Austin. And I asked him, last summer, I said, would you be able to come to Seguin? And we finally have worked out a date that he could come. So we're all excited. I hope each and every one of you are here. And like I said, I will have Kleenex here because we will need it. But I think you'll enjoy it, and we will. And we're going to discuss. We'll discuss diabetes a little further next month also.